Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. One of the reasons why I think my strategies resonate with so many people is because in order for it to work for me, it has to be really simple. And the goal of my content, if it's your first time to my channel, is to help the average individual learn that you can reach financial freedom in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. My strategy was buy and hold rental properties right from the MLS using traditional lending. So there are some things that I haven't done. I haven't done a flip, a wholesale, a BRRRR. And what I would like to do is share some information from an investor who's successfully finding deals currently in a really hot market with low supply and high demand. And sometimes, once we learn the basics, there are some really simple things we can do to shift the way we invest and actually really increase the amount of money that we're going to make. So I have a friend, Pasha, who is going to come on and share a little bit about his portfolios. Can you tell me a little bit about what got you started in real estate and what your last couple of deals looked like?
Hey, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's, I'm a great fan of you. You've been absolutely great. You've been helping me and a lot of other investors a lot. I actually started mid 2020 with one duplex. We actually bought it on MLS. We bought that property. It was pretty beat up, but it was in a very great location. So we knew right from the beginning that this could be a very good starting point for us. We renovated the place, we refinanced, and then we rented it again. Right now, a lot of my deals are actually based on the money that we made on the very first deal. It kind of helped us, like catapult us to go through the rest. But right now we have about 15 doors among 7 properties.
So you started in the middle of 2020, which basically was the middle of the first year of the pandemic, when a lot of people were in panic mode and pulling back and not doing any deals. Your first deal was a small multifamily that you did basically a BRRRR method with?
Yes.
And then you've recycled that capital into 7 properties with 15 doors. So since the middle of 2020 until now, you have almost exactly the same size portfolio that I do. And it took me 10 years to get here. So that's awesome. Congratulations. That's a really good thing. And before we get into those deals that I asked about, how did you educate yourself to be ready to do that in the middle of 2020?
That's a very good question. Beginning of the year, my wife and I decided to go in real estate. And our first instinct was basically Google. So we searched around and then we found BiggerPockets. We found actually BiggerPocket fans group on Facebook. I think we bought about 23 books. A majority of them are from BiggerPockets. We didn't even know where to start from, which was kind of funny. The very first book that we started to read was How to Estimate Your Rehab Cost. And it was really interesting because they were like, all right, I know there are 3 different type of roofs. I have no idea how to use that information, but that's good to know. But, we kept continuing reading until we hit the BRRRR book with David Green, and then How to Invest Remotely, and then House Hacking. And then we kind of didn't really follow the good chronological order, as you will, but we went through a couple of books from BiggerPockets, and then we just continued listening to the BiggerPocket podcast. That's where we actually started to learn a lot. Then we started actually going to the Facebook group, reading a lot of comments. That's where actually we got to know great investors like you. And then we're still educating ourselves every day as much as we can.
It's funny how many people will spend hours and hours binge watching a show, or I'm a gamer. I'll spend hours playing a video game. But when somebody talks about, we got a little interested in real estate, so we bought 23 books and started listening to a couple hundred hours of podcasts. That seems odd, except for a few years later, you start to develop generational wealth and make work optional, so you never have to work again for the rest of your life. So in some ways, that's an education that I think more people should look at. I mean, how many of us spend most of our lives, literally, I made it to 40 years old without ever having $1,000 in the bank, because financial education is just not even something people consider. So since 2020, I think the market's actually gotten a little more difficult to invest in. The supply keeps going down. There were supply chain issues, so building isn't happening. Demand is still there. Interest rates kept going down. Tell me about your last 3 deals. What did those look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So We basically closed on 4 properties all at once, so I will consider it as one deal.
Although and when was this?
It was December 23rd. It was one day before Christmas. We actually chose Christmas as our closing date. Not very smart, but everybody worked really hard to make sure that we made that. We basically worked with a landlord. So I basically used networking. I used my off-market campaign, which is mainly letters or postcards. And I use my networking too to reach out to the sellers that want to sell their properties. And I find this gentleman. And we talked about the situations and everything. And we basically were able to close on it as a package deal. So we bought 4 duplexes for the price of $1.1 million. But we were able to also work with a local bank to not only finance the deal, but also finance the renovations that we wanted to perform on these units. They're 100% financing the construction, and they're financing about 85% of the purchase. But that's I will consider it as one deal. This was off market, so we basically just reached out to the buyer and seller, and we worked with him.
And what market is this in?
We are in Northwest Arkansas. The second deal before that is a triplex that we bought, and it was actually on MLS. That's the deal that we bought. I really like that deal. We had a little bit of competition, but nothing crazy, but we were able to close on it. And the one before that was another single family home, which was also an off-market deal.
So the single family home was off-market, then the triplex was on market, and you had some competition, and then you bought 4 duplexes at one time.
Yeah.
Off market. A lot of times people say prices have gone up so much that it's really hard to find a deal that cash flows. And one of the things I like to point out is, right, prices are higher, but interest rates are half what they were in 2018, and rents are almost twice what they were in 2018. What are you doing to increase the cash flow and the value of these properties once you acquire them?
That's a very good question. So whenever we buy a property, we don't look into what they're being rented right now. Because a lot of the deals that you will look into, the numbers might not be that interesting, specifically because a lot of the numbers might be before the era of the pandemic. So a lot of these rents are actually pretty considerably low. The very first thing is, what is going very well in this market? In my market, 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms are really, really in high demand. So we look into the properties, and we look into whether we would be able to convert them into one of these 2, if it's like a 2-bedroom. So, for example, one of these duplexes that we're talking, as a matter of fact, 2 of them, so 4 units that we were talking about, there are 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We looked into it. They're being rented right now, I think, about $800 per month. Well, first of all, that rent is not good. That rent is not like at least 20-25% lower than the market value. And also, we looked into it and we realized that we would be able to add value to these properties by converting the garage into 2 additional bedrooms. Majority of the tenants, at least in my market, they use garages as more of a storage units, if you will, not really parking.
It's the same in my area, even in Washington State, where it tends to rain a lot. I have 16 rental units. 15 of them have garages. 1 tenant parks in the garage.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. And when I looked into it, I was like, well, it seems like a good opportunity because we had enough space to do it. So that's exactly what we're doing. We actually applied for the permit. We are good with that. So we are going to start renovating this.
So you're using mailers and other strategies to find off-market deals. You're looking for value add, converting garages. I've done something similar where I buy a duplex that is 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath each side, but each side had a den. So now I have a duplex that is 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath each side. It's not like you're doing rocket science. This is, you took 23 books and a bunch of podcasts to figure this out. So you purchase these properties, you're doing value add by converting rooms, and a lot of lenders look at livable space as the value of the property. Are you going to be refinancing these properties once they're all done?
Yes, absolutely. So with this specific deal, because we had the refinance clause with the lender, we kind of negotiated a deal with them. We said, all right, what if we do our job, we show that we can actually increase the rent to a better price, we can add, and that's a key. We can add a square foot, hit and error square foot, which is exactly what we're doing. We are going through like one by one, because at the same time, we don't want to just lose like half of our cash flow for a couple of months. That's going to be really hard on the cash flow. But we are going to convert one garage. We're going to turn it into a 4-bedroom. We're going to have new tenants in. Then we're going to go with the next one and next one and next one, which is pretty much what we are doing on the parallel side with my triplex, which is a deal that we closed on mid-September, converted that to another garage. It costed us about $7,000. We learned a lot about that, and that allowed us to be, now we are, at least I think we are much smarter when it comes to it.
Sorry, the 7,000, that was permits, materials, labor, all the contractor fees, everything.
Okay. And that's what I would actually also talk on my social media on, how you can lower down the cost of your material by 10 to 17, 18%. And that's what we're doing right now. So we are actually trying to minimize the material cost. We are basically getting negative interest rate loans on the materials, and I would be able to talk about that too. But it allowed us to be more flexible with our conversion. That unit was being rented for $870, and apparently, based on the previous owner, it rented quite hard. Now we converted the garage. Just 2 months later, we converted the garage into the 3rd bedroom. That's all we did. And of course, we did another coat of paint and everything to the unit, but nothing major. We listed it for $1,100 because now it's a 3-bedroom. Remember, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. We have about 7 applications in the first 2 days that we listed it, and about 20 people that just want to come and look at it. And we have people that are like, hey, we don't care. We're going to just pay you the deposit, and we're going to pay you the prorated.
Have you looked into the area average for 3 bedrooms around there?
Yes. So the average in the area is indeed $1,200. So we are aware that we are going a little bit lower than the price. But one, we wanted to tap the market and make sure that how they react into a property without the garage, apparently not a problem. 2, we wanted to be a little bit lower than the average to have access to the larger pool of the applicant to choose the one that we don't have to chase after to get the rent from.
So it's taken me a bit longer to get basically the same size portfolio, and I'm not being as creative. All my things are from the MLS. Someday I'm definitely going to use creative financing. I'm going to do a BRRRR.
But not today.
And when I do that, I'm definitely going to reach out to you with some questions. Like I've never done a rehab. I've never even taken the cabinets out of a kitchen and put in new ones. I buy places that are rent ready or already occupied and do really minor things. Your strategy is much more effective and faster. What does the cash flow look like? And you just started investing in 2020. So it's not like we've got a bunch of data to go off of, but right now, and you don't have to be too specific, what does that cash flow look like?
No, absolutely. I would be more than happy to. I called 92 lenders in my area to get the best rate. So I'm not really worried about
You said 92?
92, yes, 92.
Nice. I call about 5, so good job.
And I tell them, hey, look, I'm actually calling the rest of the list. Give me the best rate that you can. And guess what? I've got a couple of other properties. Some of them didn't like it. They hung up on me. That's absolutely fine. Out of those 92, I got to 60. Out of those 60, I had about 10 of them that they're really serious to help me with. And I kept my connection with them, but I think I got the best interest rate. And that this allows me to make sure that I always tap into those 10 people every single time, get the best rate, and I go with that. So that helps a lot with the cash flow and obviously the interest rate.
That's a good thing to point out. Anybody listening probably thought, well, I want to buy a property every year. I don't want to talk to 90 lenders every year. No, that was how you build your list of the ones that were worth working with.
Exactly.
So I call 5, but I've talked to at least 30 over the years, and to narrow down to the 5 that I call every time I look at a place,
exactly.
Right?
And some of them are not my really good friends. They actually we are we are connected. We even go out for lunch and everything, which is great. Some of them are giving me good some of them even bring me deals. absolutely relational based, but I'm just talking about like how this can literally impact your cash flow. So now that we have, in my opinion, the best rate that we could get on, the rest of it is about, we put aside 8% of the money for the vacancy. Although when we go with a little bit lower than the market, we usually don't have that issue, but we always want to have the reserve. And we have about another, based on the building, but we have about 8 to 10% of the rent also going to the repair and the future maintenance if needed. The rest of it gets reserved into a cash, into a bank account. And the reason that we're doing this is because my wife and I are both actually having W-2 job. We like our W-2 job, and I'm really blessed because I'm sort of like a programmer, if you will. So I don't have to work a specific hours as far as I can deliver the project. If my boss is listening to this, I love you, but because of the very same reason, it allows me to be able more flexible with my time.
Well, I have to say that often myself every time that my boss watches one of these, because I'm a part owner of the CDL school, but it's like 10%. The 90% owners are always like, "You really seem like you're into this real estate thing. Are you going to quit?" I'm like, "No, I love my job." The thing I love about real estate is I make as much at real estate as I do at my job, but that takes 2 hours a month.
Exactly.
If you want to pay me this and do it 2 hours a month, that'd be interesting, but no one's going to do that. So
exactly, and you hit the nail. The thing is, I love my job. My wife loves her job, but you want to be flexible. The whole idea of being financially free. So we have that one. So whatever money comes into from the real estate, we actually put it into a specific bank account that actually has an interest rate, like a ridiculously low interest rate. It's about 1%, but still better than a lot.
5 times what I'm getting with mine. Good job.
So we use that money as our seed money for our next project. Basically, that's the plan. So we still haven't used that cash flow to bring it in, but as of now, when we are at the full capacity, we still believe that, because this new deal that we bought, the 4 duplexes, is, as of now, is cash flow negative because we are so below the market. But obviously, we are going to bring it up. And when I say we are cash flow,
you'll fix the rents and you'll be adding living space. So
exactly. So we are able to cash out. Our money is going to come back, so we can go for the next one. And at the same time, the rent's going to go higher. And when I say it's cash flow negative, it's like minus $170. It's not like that it's breaking our bank. You know what I mean? Considering all the money is put aside for all of that work. But as of now, our cash flow with that 15 doors is about, we're making about $2,700 per month, which is not perfect, but it's not that bad either. But we are using it as some type of like a seed money, as I mentioned, to add it to the rest of our income for our next purchase.
Took me 6 years to get to the point where I had 27, and it was $2,700 a month coming in. So that's really impressive that you did it in that timeline that you had. But you have more properties at that cash flow than I did. So your appreciation is going to be better. Your principal pay down is going to be better. Once you get these 4 duplexes at area, or your rents that you're going to do just below area average and that living space added, I'd like to touch bases with you again and
yeah, absolutely.
Stay up to date on what it's looking like. We covered a lot of topics today. And if somebody has specific questions, like specifically to reach out and say, "What did you mean by negative interest rate loans?"
Yeah.
How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm active on Instagram, and my page is called Techie Real Estate, TECHIE, Techie Real Estate, all one word. Feel free to reach out to me. I would be more than happy to explain everything to you. I try to walk through my properties and explain what are the renovations that I do that I learned the hard way that they don't pay off as much, and what are the renovations that I learned good way that they actually come back positive when it comes to the appraisal. I also talk about things like how you can use softwares to make management of your property easier, how you can actually use negative interest loans to help you extend your BERM work streams and things like that. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I would be absolutely more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Well, that's the one last thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap this up. You, like me, self-manage, but you use Rent Ready.
Correct.
Can you give me the 30-second elevator pitch on how that's made your life a lot easier?
Absolutely. So I ask all of my tenants to use this application, Rent Ready. There are a lot of other applications. This is the one that we chose. They pay through that. And the good thing is that they can use credit card to pay that, which means if they, for whatever reason, they don't have the money, their debt is going to be somebody else's problem, not mine. Two, for maintenance issues, all they do is that they can take a video or photo and they can actually send it to me with an explanation of it. And I will just forward it to my plumber, to my electrician, or to my handyman, which makes it literally less than an hour of week work for me. Because I always have somebody else that will take care of it. No texting, no calling. They are specifically prohibited to call me or text me unless there is like flood in on the floor plan. And it made my life much easier. And I pay about like $8 a month, which is pretty good. Thank you so much.
So yeah, if you send me a link for that Rent Ready, I'll have it in the description below.
Perfect. Awesome.
I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing this information with people. I guarantee there's somebody, maybe two somebodies, that you're going to help.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely one of my perfect role model. I hope I can learn more from you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.